2020. What a year. Am I right? I mean, first, a global pandemic. What's the word that we all use? Unprecedented. Next, America, the land of justice for all, witnessing the absolutely avoidable death of one of its citizens on national television. To be honest, the weeks that followed were an emotional blur. Anger, outrage, disbelief, sadness, shame. But the number one feeling I remember in all of that was just a deep, deep helplessness. I felt very small and powerless. And I remember in the middle of all that getting a text from one of my mentees. Let's call her Anna. Anna is a brand new associate, brand new to her firm, brand new to our profession. And the gist of her text was something along the line of, hey, what are we going to do about George Floyd? And I remember thinking to myself, like, wait, what? What are we going to do about George Floyd? It didn't occur to me that I could be a part of any solution. But setting that inner dialogue aside, I went on to read Anna's text, and she shared with me that her firm hadn't said anything publicly or privately about George Floyd. And a number of her staff who identify as African American or Black were, I mean, it's an understatement, but they were deeply hurt, right? Deeply, deeply hurt. I mean, they perceived or received that silence of the firm as apathy, or worse, a resounding affirmation that at least to that firm, their lives didn't matter. And Anna, although she was a brand new associate, was texting me, her mentor, for advice on how to navigate that situation because she really wanted to do something about it. I'm going to put a pin on that. I mean, I'll definitely share with you, what we came up with, but the reason why I open with that story is that it really gave me pause. It really made me think, like, what's the difference between one person who feels utterly helpless in a situation and another person who feels perfectly at ease and empowered to act, no matter how small that action is? And I'm sure there are lots of studies on that difference. I'm sure there are lots of reasons. I mean, personality, maybe character flaw on my part. But then I also thought a little bit more about what are the messages in our culture? Is there something about our culture here in America that might actually discourage us from taking small action? And I arrived at this that I want to share with you today. The concept of go big or go home. Our cultural preoccupation with size. Here, let me show you. Have you ever heard the phrase, go big or go home? What about something along the lines of, welcome to the big leagues, or who's the big shot, or what's the big deal? And let us not forget Sir Mix-a-Lot's greatest hit. I mean, not to be too cheeky, but these are examples of the fact that, hey, at least the United States, size matters. But based on my reflection on my interaction with Anna, okay, I get it, size matters. But what if I submit to you that it's not the size that you think? That bigger is not always better. And in actuality, small matters. Look, I get that you may want to push back. After all, I mean, nobody orders a mini Mac. Nobody mini sizes an order. Nobody wants a little gulp. At the same time, when it comes to big societal problems like climate change, systemic racism, what I want to hone in today, which is the lack of diversity in our profession. When it comes to all of these big problems, the problem with our go big or go home mentality, as you can probably guess it, when faced with go big or go home, most of us go home. We don't even get up. You see, there are lies associated with that mentality. I mean, the lie that comes with go big or go home is insinuation that there are only two choices, that only large, grandiose solutions are worth our time, effort, and resources. The lie that if you don't have $1 million budget and complete leadership buy-in, that there's nothing to be done. The lie that you need formal power, prestige, authority, maybe a deep subject matter expertise to be even a part of solving the problem. The lie that to really solve a problem, you've got to throw it at a board, a committee, a think tank. You got to commission a study, do a deep data analysis. Those aren't even the biggest lies of all. The biggest lie of all associated with the go big or go home mentality is this: the lie that we are powerless as one person. And we have to ask ourselves, when did we make things so huge, so beyond our reach, that we don't even try? I mean, I get that leadership matters. I get that resources matter. I get all of that matters in a big way. But are we really powerless without it? And asked a different way, the question I had to ask myself: when did we make ourselves so small, so powerless, that our personal efforts weren't worth taking? That our personal celebrations, personal wins at solving a tiny part of the problem isn't celebrated. So let's take the specific example of the lack of diversity in our profession. Looking at that particularly, at what point did we decide that the solution had to lie in some other entity bigger than ourselves? That it's up to the board or a committee or a think tank or the government or the pipeline or the law school, at the exclusion of ourselves as individual actors? I mean, don't get me wrong, I am definitely not anti-diversity industry. I fully appreciate how our collective past $1 million spend has been instrumental to move the needle. I get all that. At the same time, when do we take a step back and consider whether continuing to do so makes any sense just to move the needle? Look, I'm the first to admit that I don't have any science or any studies or any data to back this up. It's not that kind of TED-inspired talk. What I do have to offer, though, is my personal observation after 15 years of legal practice and being deeply passionate and involved in this space. And my personal observation is this: that what has been missing when we've been talking about these solutions is fostering personal accountability for the fix for every single attorney right now, what everyone can do right now or tomorrow, this week, small things that we can all do. And we also fail at getting at the how, giving people tangible things to put on their to-do list. That's where we failed. I mean, think about it. I'm sure many of you, like I, have been part of a law firm diversity committee, or we're a part of the corporate diversity initiative, right? Many of you, like myself, have attended or participated or hosted a webinar about diversity, and we've done the same with diversity conferences. And when I think about all that we've done the past 15 years, despite all of us coming together, saying the same thing, that diversity, equity, inclusion is important, that there's a business case, never mind the business case, that there's a moral case, and whatever the case is, we need more people in it. But despite all that, we don't get at the how. And we don't get people on board to commit to doing something themselves. I mean, rather these conferences, after we preach to the choir, we pat ourselves on the back for having the dialogue, for admiring and studying the problem, for sponsoring, for sending our lawyers, only to do the same exact thing, sometimes with the same exact people at the same exact conference the very next year. Again, I know it sounds like I'm anti-diversity conference all of a sudden, and I'm really not. But as long as the solutions discussed when we come together are always focused on other people, the government, the corporation, it's up to leadership, it's up to the law firm, it's up to the pipeline, it's up to the law schools. As long as it's always up to someone else at the exclusion of ourselves as individuals, we might as well keep staring at that needle as it incrementally moves forward. So get this. Why don't we try something different? Right? Instead of go big or go home, why don't we embrace small, especially as in-house counsel? I've only been in-house counsel for a little over 4.5 years. But it's so surprising to me how many of us forget how incredibly powerful we are just by asking. I mean, think about it. We have the ability and the power to ask for more diversity on our outside counsel teams. We just can. We can ask for more diversity in the pitch. We can ask for more diversity in the billing, and we can ask for more diversity in the origination credit. We can even go beyond that. We can ask that an underrepresented attorney in our profession get that development opportunity, that they get to go to the conference, that they take that deposition, that they get to argue that hearing. We have that ability. So with that ability, with that power, let's exercise that responsibility and nudge and ask on every single matter. Look, I get that can be awkward. Totally get you there. At the same time, the more you do it, the less awkward it'll probably be. The more it becomes a part of your normal conversation with your outside counsel and firms. And they're going to get that this is just an expectation. And pretty soon, it becomes status quo of your relationship. That's what I really want to urge all of us as in-house counsel to do. Embrace the small, tangible actions that we can easily do. I also probably want to get back to what Anna and I figured out. If you recall, she was asking me what she could do about getting her firm to acknowledge George Floyd's death. And we did. I mean, I kind of got out of my Captain Helpless mode into mentor mode, help her carefully craft a message over text message. So how careful could that be? Help her come up with a plan to approach her firm leadership. And you know what? It worked. And I know that in the sea of diversity initiatives that we have probably all been a part of, this is tiny. This is minuscule. I mean, I don't even know if you want to count it, but it was free. It didn't take a lot of time, and it worked. And all it did was take one courageous associate feeling empowered enough to see something wrong and to take action. And that really helped and affected the firm and all those in it. Again, small, but hugely impactful, which is why I really urge lawyers, regardless of their rank at a firm, regardless of their formal authority at a company, to embrace small. Now, I know that I've been talking an awful lot about what law firms can do at our request, but I definitely don't want to forget us, ourselves as individuals, and what we can do. I mean, beyond asking firms what they can do, we can ask ourselves, are you personally mentoring or sponsoring an underrepresented attorney right now? And even if you have some resistance because of whatever's going on in your life to take on a full mentorship, By the way, it's really not that deep, boo. You can always review a resume. You can always help review a cover letter, help prepare a law student for interviews with some questions. We as in-house counsel have the special ability to share insight about our industry, about our company, about what in-house counsel want, do's and don'ts with us. We have the ability to give visibility to underrepresented attorneys, email that managing partner something complimentary about someone we've met at a conference, for example. Or we have the ability that takes seconds really to highlight an accomplishment of an underrepresented attorney within our network on LinkedIn, on other social media. Again, tiny things that we can all do, but the exponential impact, especially collectively, could be huge. Something I also want to mention is, what if you have that conversation with the law firm when you make the ask and the response is not something you like? You can always ask, why? Why don't you have underrepresented attorneys billing my matters? Why don't you have qualified candidates? Why do you feel like you can't find them? And then beyond that, even more powerful, how can I help you? I'm just as invested in this as you are. How can I help you further and grow your pipeline? Again, small, tiny things that start with an ask, all within our sphere of influence. Dare to dream of that exponential impact, especially if you and I commit to doing it, especially if you and I bring a colleague along, and especially if those we help pay it forward. Look, we've tried go big or go home, and it's not working fast enough. So today, let's start embracing small. Resist the urge to stay home. And remember that size matters, particularly small matters, that what each of us do matters. And together, we're going to be able to do more than show up. We're going to be able to change our profession. And if we apply this mentality that small matters to other societal problems, dare to dream that we might just change the world.